I've said this before, but 2 years ago, I made the first video that YouTube had ever seen about this video game, about Dark and Darker. Dark and Darker was kind of like this twinkle in the eye of this fledgling dev studio out of South Korea that had really, really great mechanics for something that was considered to be in playtest and even pre-alpha. We couldn't believe how well it played. After playing 2 rounds with some guys that I met playing Mortal Online 2, I ended up making a YouTube video cutting out from this just to tell people that the game existed because I thought that people should come and try it. It was that impressive to me. Fast forward 2 years and we've had ups and downs and back and forth. The court case, the battle, the spikes in popularity, dropping down to nearly nothing comparatively speaking. Steam charts at this point in time are looking a little bit rough. The popularity of the game is waning, and with all of the back and forth and the balance changes and whatnot, now we have this, I guess, directorial vision that is being posted in SDF's kitchen in the Dark and Darker official Discord. I feel that it's my job or duty or whatever to this community to at least talk about how I see things going and whether or not I figure this game is going to survive. Make no mistake, I think that at this point, it's been a couple of years since this game came out. I think that the game is always going to have its core player base, but I worry that the popularity of the game will never ever see even half the level of popularity that it did around, say, Playtest 4 before the DMCA claim happened. Now, of course, we have no idea whether or not the court case is going to end up going Iron Mace's way in appeal, and I know that they are trying to be very cost conscientious right now. I think I would be naturally when you end up having a judgment to the tune of like $6 million US, which essentially was their entire profit margin. You have to start worrying about ongoing income and then being cost conscientious so that you could afford to basically keep the servers running and the lights on and people employed, right? In the midst of all that, though, we have videos that like Repose highlighted just a week or 2 ago talking about how SDF has gone back and forth on multiple iterations of balance changes. He ended up showcasing this thing with Axe Mastery, going from 3 damage back to 5 and then down to 3 and then back to 5 and then down to 3 again. Almost like they just couldn't make up their mind on how they wanted this balance to actually go. And now we have, with the popularity of the game having declined as much as it has progressively over the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, they had made a move to try and make the game look more appealing to a more casual player base. A move that may not necessarily have been in the core focus of what Dark and Darker was supposed to be, but something that would have been more appealing to a wider audience. And in this case, I don't necessarily think that was all that bad. It might not be, from a purist standpoint, not what an extraction game is supposed to be, but for a game like this that is extremely brutal even on the PvE side of things, I thought that it was a good intro for people to then maybe want to venture into the PvP side. I mean, after all, games like Escape from Tarkov eventually even integrated their own PvE only mode, right? It's not mixed, but you understand what I'm saying. But the problem becomes when they're starting to then refocus on their core vision, right? SDF keeps talking about this core vision and how in SDF's kitchen, just to paraphrase, he's talking about how over the course of time, they were kind of at odds with each other. Him versus like Terry and some other folks in the office, and what he wanted to make the game as and what other people said that it should be like molded to be more appealing to the rest of us, to the normal player. And SDF always railed against that, but was always feeling like he was outvoted and tried to like give people what they wanted. I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea, but apparently he did. And now moving forward, we have the removal of solo and duo queues to reduce the number of queue counts. We're going to have trios only, and instead of looking at what needed to happen from a core mechanic standpoint, which they have openly admitted, I think at this point they know that they need to do something about, they've removed all the random rolls on gear, so now it's just the core stats, right? So if you have like a knowledge robe, it goes from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 knowledge, depending on the rarity of the item, and that's literally it. There's no other random rolls on it whatsoever. And then also removing like solo and duo queue, but not providing any new skills, abilities, mechanics, anything like that for each class to be able to have some amount of skill expression, CC or otherwise, that would allow them the ability to fight against a 3-man party if they were solo. Whether they could get away, whether it's a stat bonus, stat buff, something like that, to be able to play as solos, that none of that has been discussed, or at least hasn't been discussed with us. And what it looks like is the ability, the agency that all of us have to be able to play solo or duo is just kind of being removed in lieu of trying to shrink the number of queues so that, I guess, the lobbies are populated, but at the same time taking all of the fun out of what people preferred to play. Now, from a purist standpoint, the game probably never should have had solos solos or duos. It probably should have stayed trio only from the very beginning, because then at least people would have known what they were buying. But it's been so long since they've played into the hands of the people and what we wanted, what the community wanted as gamers, wanting solo and duo queues. It's been so long since that happened that it's almost like a lot of people bought into the game for the purpose of playing it that way. And now that it's being removed, it's kind of like they sold you this idea and then decided to take that idea away. It's not what some people bought the game for. The same thing with PvE mode, with adventure mode. They implemented this adventure mode, and now there's talk in this same series of threads and in patch notes talking about how adventure mode is looking like it's also going to be removed. If they remove adventure mode, there I'm sure were countless numbers of people that were like, oh, finally, I could get into this and get a sense of what the game is like, get some, halfway decent, rather mediocre level of loot, but I could learn it and then go into the PvP side. There was always fallback plan for people that were having a hard time. They were struggling. And then if that rug gets pulled, now, again, people being sold this idea of adventure mode, no longer having adventure mode, how many people bought the game or came back to the game solely so that they could play PvE? You know what I'm saying? This is a problem. Feels like, and I've said this before, it feels like they're putting the cart in front of the horse. I understand that the idea of early access or whatever is that it's supposed to be for testing, right? Like we're alpha, beta, whatever, testing. That's what we're supposed to be doing. If we don't want to be alpha and beta testers, we shouldn't have bought the game. Yeah. At the same time, I am one of those people that believes that there should be a well thought out plan of action, something well fleshed out, where there's been enough internal testing to say like, all right, I think I have an idea of how all of this will work. And in the case of something like more social systems or the ability for a solo or a duo to be able to take on a three-man party and still have the potential to win, which I don't really think there is right now, that should all have been thought out and implemented in the game prior to when we got shown the idea, right? If SDF's vision is one in where we're supposed to be able to have these different party sizes and different levels of gearing, but still be able to feel like we have a fighting chance, he needs to show us what that looks like in the video game before he puts out something that looks like it's just the video game stripped of all of the things that made the video game interesting, which is what he's doing right now. And this is the thing that makes me worry, because it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, here's kind of sort of what I'm thinking of, and this is what I want the game to be shaped around, but I have to figure out how all of this, once it's stripped away, I have to figure out how we're going to make this workable again. Instead of saying like, I'm looking at moving into this, please trust me, I'll show it to you at some point in the next 6 months once I've got like all of the mechanics, I think, kind of roughed in and figured out, and then you guys can let me know about what needs balance. Because right now, it just feels really watered down, if I'm being honest. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's being watered down. I am not a big advocate for people like outgearing other folks. I don't think that that's fun either. I do think that if you're a truly, truly skilled person, you would have the ability to, and we've seen this multiple times, guys that stream like, Repose and Jay and Boss and Ken and all these other guys that I've gotten to know over the last couple of years that are extremely proficient. Juye, right? Yami and Party Chip. Like, I love those guys. They're extremely skilled players and they're very entertaining. But above all, we've seen where when they have less gear, they can still win, right? But they have 5,000 plus, 10,000 plus in Repose's case, hours in this video game, right? And more time, more skill, more gear, it just kind of becomes this feedback loop. But for new players that got, the sub 500 hour crowd that haven't even gotten to the point where they've been able to kill a normal level boss yet, even in adventure mode, because they're still trying to figure out how the game works, those guys are the ones that really need, to kind of get a pat on the butt and shown how to play the game the right way, or at least be given the tools to be able to fight guys that have a lot of hours, and to the effect that they can self-analyze or be able to look at how they played and discern that if I had done this differently, it would have been better. One of the things about a game like Escape from Tarkov is most of the time when I played that game over my almost 11,000 hours in that game, most of the time I could analyze how I lost, right? Like I got shot from a certain angle. Oh, they must have been in this awkward spot, or they were set up over here, or they came around that corner. I misread that grenade toss. That grenade toss was a misdirection play, and then they rushed me from the other side because they were trying to draw my attention, right? They made some really long flank, and I didn't read it. There's a lot that you can garner from a game like Tarkov that helps you become a better player if you can analyze your own ability and say, I made mistakes. Now, I'm not trying to say that this game should be Tarkov. If anything but. We already have a Tarkov. There are people that like it and people that don't. That's fine. What I am saying, though, is much like how Tarkov gives a solo the ability to beat teams of larger sizes, this game needs to, if they're not going to let us do solo duo queues, this game needs to have mechanics that allow people that just want to play by themselves or just have like that one friend that they like playing the video game with. They need to have those mechanics available for every class so that those classes feel like they have a fighting chance. Or they need to come up with completely different balancing trees or whatever for all these different party sizes that will exist even if the game is trio only. Because the only solos that will be relatively successful in Dark and Darker will be ones that just run away from every pair of footsteps that they hear running down the hallway, fear that they're going to get overwhelmed by larger party sizes. And honestly, I don't know many people that are going to want to play 1,000, 2,000 plus hours in a game like Dark and Darker if the entire gameplay loop is PvE plus running away. That just doesn't sound fun. It's not fun. Give me a game where I feel like if I can get my shit together, I have the ability to beat a 2-man or a 3-man alone with what toolbox I've got. Then we're talking. Otherwise, this graph is going to continue to look progressively more red, and sales will hurt as a direct result of that. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this one. Thanks for coming by. Thank you for listening to my yap. Thank you for supporting my channel all the while that you have been. We are going to be switching up to Dune in 4 days. So on Thursday this week, June 5th, we are going to be doing Dune stuff. It launches at 10 a.m. Eastern on the 5th of June. Well, for the early start guys anyway, of which I'm going to be one. We have a good squad. I have 500 hours off stream in that game that I've been playing in the closed beta tests. If you guys want to learn some really cool strats about what to do and how to move through the tech tiers like really quickly, I will definitely be the place to come and watch all that. All right. Anyway, for those of you that are disinterested in any of that stuff and, you know, maybe want to come by a stream, that would be sweet. But if you don't feel like doing any of that, maybe I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for lending me your eyeballs, everybody. We'll see you real soon. Peace.